Monica O'Hara was born and brought up in Ireland and later moved to Liverpool, England. Monica is a medical journalist and a graphologist and is now in her late 70s. She had 3 children and lives with her second husband, Joe Keaton, in Liverpool. When Monica was a child, she attended a convent and was taught by nuns. One particular nun taught her about Pythagoras, which would have been unusual for a nun because she also told her that Pythagoras was interested in the transmigration of souls or reincarnation. This kindled a flame in young Monica. However, Catholic faith does not believe in reincarnation, and one day in religious class, when Monica broached the subject of reincarnation, she was set out of the classroom and made to stand in the corridor for being a heretic. As Monica was growing up, she would have regular nightmares where she was in a small room surrounded by dark water that was slowly rising up around her. Fortunately, she would always wake up before the water rose above her head. In this dream, she had no idea where she was. She also had another dream where she was on a ship with an old cage lift. At this stage, she had not linked either of the dreams. She would regularly have other dreams, with one in particular that featured a large white country house with Doric columns. Doric columns are Greek-inspired architecture that is wider at the base than the top, not unlike the White House in Washington, D.C. The grounds are spacious with many animals. She had the feeling that she lived there. On another occasion, she is actually inside the building looking out at the scenery. In another dream, she's at the seaside surrounded by many people on a promenade with a hotel in the background. The hotel closely resembled the Waldorf Astoria in New York that she had seen photographs of. There were people sitting on benches wearing long dresses. She assumed she was a young woman who was staying with her parents in the hotel. The dreams were regular occurrence throughout her childhood and into adulthood, but it never occurred to her that they were all connected. One fear that has always been with her since childhood was a deep fear of water, particularly dark, still water. If she were in a scenario where there were stars in the sky and dark water underneath, she would run away in a panic. She was not particularly afraid of boats, but she did ensure she stayed away from the edges. One event in history that continued to fascinate her was that of the Titanic, which at times had become an obsession. Over the years, her interest grew stronger, and at one time in 1987, she met an old sailor who happened to have some records of the passengers on the Titanic. As Monica had studied graphology, or the way a person writes by hand, she was fascinated by the handwriting of passengers on the Titanic and did an analysis of them. This in turn brought her into contact with the British Titanic Society, along with 2 Titanic societies in America. Monica said that when you study handwriting, you're also probing into people's minds. This allowed her to study in detail the people who went down with this ship. In 1985, Monica was hypnotically regressed in the hope of curing her fear of water. In her first regression, she was told to keep going back until she saw something of interest. She felt herself going through a tunnel of darkness before getting a strong impression that she was on the promenade deck of a large ship, and it was night time. She was sitting on a deck chair with a blanket over her and was freezing cold. She was asked who she was, but all she could say was la, was unable to say a name. Monica felt strange because she felt she had one foot in the present but another foot in the past, but had a strong feeling for the person in the deck chair. When she was brought out of the regression, she was shivering from the cold, from the ship she was on. After undergoing many more regressions, they were able to piece together a story as to who she actually was in a past life. That she had been a young girl of about 17 who had lost her life on the Titanic when it sank in 1912. On what she said on hypnosis, it appears that she had run away from home and was travelling under another name, so was unable to accurately check on the passenger list records. But what convinced Monica of a past life was when she actually visited some locations from that life. She had recognised certain places and knew her way around. As the character of the young girl slowly evolved, they discovered that she was extremely snooty and arrogant and difficult to communicate with. She lived in a large house in Cornwall in southern England and had been a lonely child. She had no brothers or sisters and was brought up by a governess who she hated. Her father was very friendly with the governess, which she disliked. The reason it was difficult to find her real identity was because she did not want anyone to know her real name. When Monica was regressed to the young woman, she actually took on a persona. It was not until they were able to regress her back to the age of 6 or 7 that they were able to get her real name, which was Lucy Latimer, whose father was supposedly a baron. She was insistent that her first name, Lucy, was spelt with an I-E and not a Y, and her surname was spelt with a Y and not an I. After tracing her surname, they found that it had been spelt 3 different ways. Strangely, Monica had always loved the name Lucy. Lucy had a boyfriend called Steady, who had been working as a casual labourer around the house. There were strong suspicions that Lucy had eloped with the young man. Monica decided to visit a town in County Cork called Cobb, which was the last sailing point for the Titanic, and as soon as she arrived, she found it totally familiar. One of her dreams had been going up a hill in a horse and carriage and arriving in a hotel. As soon as she arrived in the town of Cobb, she immediately had a feeling that there should be a horse and cart. The hills she encountered was the same in her dream. Everything around her was the same as in her dreams. Interestingly, it was the last place in her dream before embarking on a new adventure. Unfortunately, it would be the last few days of her life. As she walked around the town, past memories of the smells enveloped her. She looked for a hotel she stayed in and inquired about a canopied walkway. Although the canopy no longer existed, she was shown an old photo of the walkway and the canopy, which she immediately recognised. Some places she immediately recognised, but other places she did not. She went to one place for a cup of tea and thought, "My God, this is the place." At the time, it was for poor people, and she and Stenny had stayed there as they had no money. It was the image of her dreams. Monica believed she travelled first class, but then realised she travelled steerage for poor people. On further research on the existence of Lucy, in 1990 they sent out a teletext about Lucy Latimer. Mrs. Alice Lewis ran the British Titanic Society and believed they were talking about Eleanor Truelove Latimer, who had run away to sail on the Titanic. Eleanor was headstrong and brought up on a farm in Cornwall. So where did the name Lucy come from? An 18-year-old man called Arthur Stenning worked as a farm labourer for the Latimers and was keen on Eleanor. In April 1912, Eleanor and some friends were to visit an aunt in St. Austell. Eleanor told them she was meeting a friend in Probus and would meet them at her aunt's. But she never arrived that evening. When her father went to the docks in search of her, he found that the ship had already sailed. He later found out about their relationship and found that Arthur Stenny had a brother in Philadelphia, which is where they were probably going. They were never seen or heard from again. After further research, they were able to track down a house in Cornwall where a family called the Latimers had resided, called Lanarth. Lanarth was now a hotel in the village of St. Kew Highway, Cornwall. She immediately recognised it as being the view in her dreams. She did not recognise the front of the building, but was familiar with the back. She inquired about a missing door in the dining area and was told it had been bricked up, and she immediately recognised the music room. Like many cases of reincarnation, many of their dreams or regressions can become clouded with false memories. That is not to say that the events never took place, but trying to recall something that happened many lifetimes ago could be difficult to accurately pinpoint. Monica O'Hara Keaton wrote a book titled I Died on the Titanic, along with other books on graphology and self-healing.